The world of Formula One has never seen a driver like this one.
Astounding performance by the Brazilian. Look at the gap.
The master of qualifying, supreme of all time.
The best driver in Grand Prix racing, the best driver in the world by a long way.
Sure, he was an amazing driver, but what really made him stand out was his passion. His amazing wins and shining legacy are the reasons why people love him to this day. And we know that if he'd survived, he would have made it to unimaginable heights. Here's everything you need to know about Formula One's racing legend, Ayrton Senna. Now, if you ask us, Senna is easily one of the greatest Formula One drivers ever. Some people might not agree entirely on that one, and we get it. He's not exactly at the top of the leaderboard in terms of titles. But the thing is, greatness isn't just about racking up wins. You've got to look at the bigger picture. When Senna passed away tragically in '94, the whole world stood still. We're talking over 3 million people flooding the streets for his funeral. That's more than the turnout for some of history's most iconic figures, like JFK, MLK, and Princess Di combined. And get this, he was just 34, barely hitting his prime. Who knows how many more trophies he would have gotten if fate hadn't intervened? If you're still not convinced, let us take you through his Formula One career, because despite his short time with the sport, it's definitely left its impact. Let's go back to 1984. At this point in time, a young Senna had just burst onto the scene, making his debut in the big leagues. He started off his F1 career with Toleman in '84, showing some serious skills right out of the gate. His standout performances caught the eye of Lotus, a team with a history of winning. Over 3 years with Lotus, Senna got his first victory in Portugal. But despite the highs of wins, there were also some frustrating lows Ayrton had to deal with. For one, his time at Lotus was ruined by mechanical problems, holding him back from a shot at the championship. That's why in '88, he made the jump to McLaren, and boy did he make an impact, bagging 3 titles over the next 4 years. Because of this, Senna cemented his status as a Formula One legend. And of course, Ayrton's history in the Formula One racing scene wouldn't be complete without talking about his intense rivalry with Alain Prost. Like in 1988, the two battled it out for the championship in one of the most epic showdowns in F1 history. Then, in 1992, Senna's McLaren days were drawing to a close. For some time, it looked like things were going down for the guy, especially with the dominant Williams car ruling the track. Then, in '94, he made a bold move to join Williams, hungry for that 4th title. But that's when tragedy struck at Imola during the 4th round of the season, cutting short the career of one of F1's greatest talents. It's probably one of the saddest events for racing fans, because it ended up burning away one of the most promising careers we could have ever seen in Formula One. It's safe to say the world of F1 wasn't ever the same after his death. This guy wasn't just a legend on the track, he was also admired by every driver out there. Why? Well, yeah, he was insanely talented, no doubt about that, but it was more than that. Senna had heart. Take, for instance, the 1992 Belgian Grand Prix. Eric Comas, another racer, had a nasty crash, leaving him unconscious in his car with the engine still running. Senna, in his McLaren, spotted Comas and didn't hesitate for a second. He pulled over and dashed across the track, dodging cars like a boss, just to turn off Comas' engine and save his life. That's the kind of guy Senna was, courageous, selfless, and always looking out for his fellow racers. So, when news broke of Senna's tragic passing, it hit the entire racing world hard. Some drivers even questioned whether they should keep racing. That's why it was, hands down, one of the darkest moments in Formula One history. Now, when people argue about who's the greatest of all time, the names Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton often come up. And sure, they've achieved a lot. But let's not forget the impact Senna had, not just on the track, but in the hearts of everyone who watched him race. Plus, it's not his death that's important, but the way that he lived his life and the many achievements he accomplished during his time in F1. It's got to be said that even after Senna's death, he continues to have a huge impact on the world of Formula One and its fans, especially when you consider how the FIA worked to make the sport safer because of it. In 1995, Formula One upped its game when it came to crash tests. They wanted to make sure the cars were safer than ever. Then, in 1996, they upped the protection even further, this time making sure the driver's head was protected. Senna died because, during his crash, a piece of metal hit his head. It's possible that if these measures had been put in place earlier, he might have even survived his tragic crash. Still, it's good that at least after he passed away, there were some actions taken to prevent further such losses from happening. And this wasn't the only change the F1 made to improve safety after Senna's death, because in 1998 they got smart about the wheels, attaching them to the car with tethers to keep them from flying off. But the big breakthrough came in 2003 with the introduction of the hands system. This thing added a whole new layer of safety. It basically attached the helmet to the driver's shoulders, protecting the spine in case of a crash. And just when you thought they couldn't make things any safer, along came the Halo in the last season. This thing was all about protecting the driver's head even further. Ayrton was also honored by the increased safety on the tracks after his passing. Formula One realized that they couldn't afford to lose legends like him because of poorly designed tracks. They kept racing at Imola until 2006, but they didn't just sit on their hands. Nope, they turned Tamburello into a chicane in 1995, making it safer for the drivers. And over a third of the tracks on Formula One's recent calendar are what they call Tilkdromes, named after Herman Tilke, the guy who's been designing tracks since 1995. These tracks are wider, with more space around the curves and stands set further back, keeping the fans safe. But Senna's death did more than just make Formula One safer. It changed the world's attitude toward the sport. Maurice Hamilton, a motorsports expert, summed it up best in the documentary, One Life on the Limit. He said Senna's death wasn't just a tragedy for racing fans, it was a wake-up call for the whole world. People who didn't even follow motorsports were tuning in, asking questions, demanding answers. They needed to know why Senna had died and who was to blame. It was a moment that shook the sport to its core. It got more people looking into F1 than ever before, and created an aura of scrutiny among the public that continues to this day. While Ayrton's death is obviously sad, it's good to know the immense amount of good that has come as a result of it. Plus, it's not just through his passing that people have taken inspiration and motivation. His life provides a huge amount of examples of that too. It's filled with achievements and a glowing legacy that will be remembered for years. For one, let's take a look at his impressive collection of wins. Over a decade, Senna went on to grab 3 titles, win a massive 41 races, and grace the podium countless times. And like we said, he did it all while wheeling for powerhouse teams like Lotus, McLaren, and Williams. It wouldn't be wrong to imagine Senna as the Lionel Messi of racing. After all, he was able to pull off moves that left everyone else in the dust. Take his debut season, for instance. At the Monaco Grand Prix, he got second place after starting a pitiful 13th on the grid. Then take a look at a few years later to another Monaco stint. This time he blitzed past his 2-time world champion teammate Alain Prost, getting the pole position with a staggering 1.4-second lead. In Formula One terms, that's like an eternity. But that's not all, because there's also the '93 European Grand Prix. Senna, in a not-so-hot McLaren, goes from 4th on the grid to getting the lead in just 1 lap, leaving everyone else in his rearview mirror. And that first lap at Donington? Well, it's cemented in Formula One history as one of the best of all time. With amazing races like that, it's no wonder the guy is still in many people's Hall of Fame. Anyway, if you want to check out some more content on F1 racing and its history, make sure to click on this next video.